This is Danny Flexen here for Seconds Out. Delighted to be joined by my good friend, Hall of Fame promoter, Frank Warren. Frank, how you doing?
I'm good, mate. How are you?
I'm very good, thanks. We're near the end now of 2022, a very successful year for yourself and Queensberry Promotions. I'm going to go right in with a hard-hitting opener. Frank, how was your Christmas?
I had a nice Christmas with my family, all of my kids and my grandkids. It was really nice to see everyone, get everyone together. I always enjoy that time of year because you can switch off a bit, and it was lovely. And yeah, touch wood, all good.
I'm sure a lot of people will be concerned. How's your back, your much documented back problems in the run up to Christmas?
Yeah, well, I had 3 operations in 7 weeks on it, and the last one when they fused some of the vertebrae. So hopefully that's going to do the trick now. It's got rid of the sciatic pain and the pain I had in my shoulder. So thankfully, or hopefully, that's going to make it all good for next year. It takes a bit of time. I've got to obviously do a bit of recuperation and a bit of physio. So I'll get through that and hit the ground running. I don't hit the ground too hard, but or even I'll be pleased to hit the ground walking.
I was going to say, as long as you're not crawling, you'll be all right. A great year for Tyson Fury. Didn't feature the kind of quality of opposition or dramatic fights that we've seen in the past with the likes of Deontay Wilder. But has it been the year where he solidified his position as the biggest draw, the biggest attraction in the UK boxing scene?
Yeah, I think he has. I mean, obviously, one of the fights was a mandatory, so he had to take that fight with Dillian Whyte. And as we all know, it's well documented, 94,000 people there. 59,000, I think it's 800, whatever it was at Spurs. So, that's nearly, 150 odd thousand. He's the biggest attraction in world boxing for live gates. There's no doubt about that. And he cemented that. And we managed to achieve 2 things. One, get rid of the mandatory. And 2, which I wanted to, I was sort of banging on about, to get some rounds under his belt so that he could set himself up for the unification fight next year. And he needed that because I didn't want him not getting a fight in before Christmas. Otherwise, he'd been out the ring for a year again. So he's done that. And now we've got to just get that fight over the line.
And we'll talk about that in a minute. But for years, the kind of rivalry between Fury and Anthony Joshua was that, who had the better resume. It was relatively close, but Joshua was the commercial attraction. He was the one selling out stadia. There seems to be a role reversal now. Is that fair? And is that quite satisfying for you?
Well, it's satisfying that he's selling out stadiums, and I'm delighted about that. I'm delighted for Tyson. Look, Tyson's crossed over. He's not just a boxer; he's crossed over. So he's proved what he can do as far as the fans are concerned. I mean, the fans loved him. They came to both the shows. They weren't disappointed. They were all happy. They were all cheering at the end. So that was brilliant. He's had 3 best-selling #1 books. He's got a series coming out.
Have you read them,
Netflix.
Frank? Have you read them cover to cover?
Yeah, of course I have. He's got his Netflix series coming out. So he's a major star. He's a big star. He's not just in boxing. He's a big star. And that Netflix series will be seen all over the world. And that's brilliant for him. It's brilliant for boxing. It's brilliant for us as his promoters. And he's solidified where he's at. I mean, I've been saying it for ages. For me, he's the #1 heavyweight in the world. And I think that's beyond doubt now. And he's the biggest attraction in boxing. And he's the better fighter. And he's done it by what he's done in the ring. He's a much better fighter than I think he's head and shoulders above all the heavyweights at the moment.
And when we spoke to you not long after the Dillian Whyte fight earlier in the year, which was, of course, the biggest attendance ever for boxing in the UK, you said that you were very happy with the pay-per-view numbers. You said the gate had exceeded that for Anthony Joshua against Vladimir Klitschko, but the final numbers weren't in. Can you give us a rough idea, so many months later now, of the pay-per-view buys? Was it over 1 million?
You can caught me on the hop there, but they've done really well. Everybody's highly delighted with the numbers, what they did. Highly delighted.
Can't tell us if it hit that million figure?
I'm not. I've got to be honest here. I can't. I can't remember what it was, but no one's complained. Everybody's happy with the number that they hit. That was a big show, and obviously you only had to see yourself. We could have sold 100,000 tickets there. It was a big show that the public bought into in a big way, as they did in the second show.
Well, talking of the Chisora fight, obviously didn't have quite the same allure as the Dillian Whyte one, predominantly because they'd
Yeah.
fought twice before.
No, I
Twice,
agree with that. I accept that. I accept that.
but still did very well at the gate at Spurs. How did it do? Again, this is more recent, so maybe you'll be a bit more on the ball on this one. How's it done
Well,
on pay-per-view?
as you know, one of our rivals is always keeps on banging on about what numbers we've done.
Set him straight. Set him straight.
I don't know where he gets the numbers from, but I will tell you this: we did far more buys than they've got subscribers on Dead Zone.
Yeah, I believe you, but that still doesn't give me an accurate picture of how
We
many.
done well. Listen, it delivered what it needed to, and we're all happy about where we are. And more importantly, it set us up now for where we need to be next year with these big fights for Tyson and for the other heavyweights in our stable. And it's important to get rid of that, as I say, get rid of the mandatory. And it was important that he had a run out before this fight. So we got a big fight coming up in March, and obviously we've got to sort out where it will take place.
And just final one on the Chisora fight, and then I promise to move on. Under or over 500,000 buys?
Pardon?
Under or over 500,000 buys?
It was over.
Fair enough. Moving on, we will talk about the hopeful Usyk fight in a minute, but Anthony Joshua was a fight that some parties seemed hopeful of making for December, and it didn't come to fruition. Looking back on it now, what was the crucial thing that stopped it happening? Was it just a lack of time?
Well, I was one of the parties that thought it would happen. Probably me more than anybody. Why didn't it happen? I think there was I think between everybody there was the two camps. There was a move to get it done, but I thought as it got to sort of get nearer to it, I think the other side didn't want to know, and eventually Joshua didn't want to know. And I think he did an interview, didn't he? Well, he did do an interview, Frank Smith, saying there weren't enough time to get it all together, which I wish he'd have told us day one, and we wouldn't have wasted 5-6 weeks on it and could have done something else. But that's all water under the bridge now, and it's a pointless exercise going over it. It is what it is.
That kind of belief that they never really wanted it, is that kind of supported by the fact that Joshua has since gone around different trainers and continues to?
Well, he never had a trainer.
Yeah.
He never even had a trainer. And we were unaware of that because we obviously thought he was staying with a trainer he got. So he never had a trainer. So how was he ever going to do the fight? He never had a trainer. And he's obviously, as you say, he's hunting around for a trainer. He may have found one. I've got no idea. I don't really care, to be quite honest. We got our plan for next year. The obvious question, is he going to figure in it? Well, that I can't really... I can't see him figuring anything Tyson's doing in these next couple of fights, that's for sure. And Tyson was a bit pissed off what went on and the time we wasted. So we are where we are with that. But if he wants to fight Joe Joyce, or if he wants to fight Daniel Dubois, we'd do those in a heartbeat.
Well, I'm sure he'll watch this and take those under due consideration. And what do you expect, if anything, could still be the stumbling blocks or the points of negotiation that are remaining?
Well, it's like everything. You have your discussions, that gets translated. You tell the lawyers to get with it, that gets translated into a contract. They send it to their lawyers, and I'm sure there's stuff in there that they want to tweak and look at and so forth. But that's nothing unusual. It's a bit like buying a house. You all agree to terms, but then the lawyers get involved, and you have some to and fro until you get to where you need to be.
Yeah, it's a bit of a sore point personally at the moment, Frank. So I won't dwell on that for too long. We spoke to Alex Krasuk a couple of weeks ago, just before Christmas, the promoter of Usyk, of course. He said, similar to you, very, very, nearly there. He said that there were 3 Middle Eastern countries vying to stage the fight. He said the UK was more or less a backup option, I guess, because of the money involved. Where are we at with that, kind of the location side?
That's about it, really. That is the position, and until the contract's signed, I mean, we've got to get the fight. Once we've got the fights done, then we will then look to see where we're going to put it on, and we got to move very quickly because we're looking to get this on in early March, so we need to move quickly, all of us. We're all on the same page as far as that's concerned. Get it done quickly so we can announce it and get it on sale.
Give us an idea of how the contract works with no venue in place. So is it just based on a split, like a percentage split at the moment, and the actual figures will be later on?
I don't want to go into any details of the contract, mate, because we've got a confidentiality agreement with all of us not to discuss what's in there. But we're all, we all know where we are. We're all on, as I say, hopefully we're all on the same page to make it work.
Fans will be, or some fans will be, a little disappointed that it's not probably going to be in the UK. I think most people understand why, but can you kind of sympathise with the fans as well that they
of course
want to?
I can. Of course I can. I mean, but you've got to look at, Qatar's just had the World Cup. A lot of people were pissed off that the football was there, but it was there because they pulled up the money to make it happen. Their Olympics have gone to Moscow. They've been gone all over the places which have paid money for them. This is our Olympics. This is our World Cup final. Years ago, the big fight, George Foreman and Ali went to Zaire. They then did fights in Philippines, in Jamaica. So they went where the money was, and that's where we're at. Nothing changes. It's exactly the same as even if you're a footballer. You're going to go where you can earn the most money. They've got short careers, boxers. It's more dangerous than any other sport. And fights like this that come along once in a generation, 4 belts on the line, these guys want to get top dollar. So we've got to go where the best offer is. That's where it's going to wind up. Would I like to see it at Wembley? Of course I would like to see it at Wembley. It goes without saying.
You mentioned Joe Joyce earlier. He's the WBO interim heavyweight champion now. Great year that he's had in 2022. Tyson said if the Usyk fight for any reason doesn't come together, he's happy to face Joyce next. Is that your kind of plan B as well?
Well, whatever Tyson wants, I mean, he's the champion. That's what we'll go with. If that's his plan B, that's his plan B. He's indicated that's what he wants to do. I'd love to see the fight. You'd like to see it. It's a great fight. I mean, it's a fantastic fight for the fans. Absolutely. But I don't want to be a pessimist. I want to be an optimist that we get this over the line with Usyk.
What percentage would you say you are at the moment that the Usyk fight happens next?
I'm not going to say that anymore because I said I was very confident, and it cost me a few quid with Tyson when I said that the AJ fight was going to happen. So I'm not going to bock it. I'm just going to say we're all on the same page. Contracts issued, and one thing we have done, we've got a contract issued. So that's quite a step forward.
And there's nothing in that contract, without giving away what's actually in it, that you could see the other side being completely against. There's always room for negotiation, obviously.
I hope not.
Well, it's good to know. Joyce has also made some comments recently, not just to me, but I think to you, got like Queensberry as well, that he was shocked that it seemed to be a possibility, I'm not sure it is now, that Daniel Dubois, his former victim, was going to get a world title shot before him. In the WBA had said that Dubois was next in rotation as the regular champion to face Usyk. And Joyce was waiting kind of behind him in the line. What do you make of that?
Well, what the facts are is it was decided when AJ was champion, there'd be a rotation. So all the governing bodies met and they agreed that they would each take their turn. And the next one in there is the WBA. That's the next one. That's where it's at. So the WBA mandatory is the next mandatory, but we're not looking at the mandatories. What we're looking at is getting the Usyk fight on. That's what we want to get the unification on. If it doesn't happen for any reason, then we'll have to look to see where we are with it. Then if that's not the case, maybe Tyson the fight, as you were saying earlier, he might fight Joe and maybe Daniel fights Usyk. Who knows? But whatever happens, they'll all get their shots at the title. They'll all get their shots. What I mean by that is both Daniel and Joe.
Now, you've always been a huge supporter and believer in Daniel Dubois, even going into a fight with a fellow Queensberry heavyweight in Joyce, you backed Dubois. And after he failed to win that one, you really got behind him, got him back into an amazing position where he is now. Are you concerned about that faith now after watching the Kevin Lorena fight, which has raised a lot of questions?
No, I think it raised more up for me. It gave me more answers than questions. First of all, I mean, we got behind Joe. We bought Joe's contracts from
Ringstar, wasn't it?
Ringstar, whatever it's called. Yeah, we bought it from them. So that was our faith that we had in him. And we got really behind him, got into the position where he's now the interim champion. So we worked very hard on his behalf. And I think he put in probably the best fight in it last year or this year. The best fight, him and Parker, was a great fight to watch. As far as Daniel's concerned, it was an open air fight. 3rd of December. No one does open air fights. I mean, I can't think of anybody who's ever put a fight on. We've done that. Thankfully, it weren't the following week because everyone had about 2 foot of snow on their head. But he got clipped, and you know yourself, Dan. In the first round, anyone gets clipped on the top of the head, gets caught on the top of the head, they can go. And we've seen that time and time again in boxing. He got caught. He went over. I think he got very quickly. He then went down twice without getting hit. And then I'm sitting obviously the other side of the rope saying, what is going on here? I couldn't make out what's happening. And when he came out the second round, you could see that he was struggling with his foot and getting his leverage. But when it got down to it, he gritted his teeth and he gritted it out. And it was a sensational finish from him when he had to put it together. So for me, I like what I see about that. I like to see that, what he did. He's had a little procedure on his leg now, and he'll be out early next year.
With the WBA regular belt and the status that it bequeaths upon the person who holds it, it's quite difficult now for him to have, say you wanted to pause him or let him take a little step back in terms of the quality of people he's fighting, because he's still very young. It's hard to do that now.
No, look, he is the WBA regular champion, as they call him. So now he'll be fighting guys that are ranked. That's what he'll do. They won't let him fight anyone unless they're ranked. So that's where he's at now. He'll fight ranked guys, and he will have there will be a mandatory defense of that title next year, whatever happens, and he'll be the guy in there. And it ain't going to be maybe no tougher opponent than the unified champion, that's for sure, unless they vacate the belt.
Does that not concern you, though? Like the leap from someone like Lorena, a fight where he did struggle, to an Usyk or a Fury?
No, I think, look, I could look over the year. You could look at most fighters. You can see fighters where they've had, where they've struggled and they've come back. I've seen that a lot. What I like to see is if you get caught, you get caught. It's how you deal with it. And he dealt with it well. And there were he had a genuine problem with his leg. He had more problem with his leg than getting caught. That was what his problem was. But once he got himself back in it, and once he literally had to grit his teeth and tough it out, and he did that. And I mean, when he gets someone in trouble, I mean, he's a good finisher. I mean, he's probably one of the best finishers in the business. Of course, I'd like to see him have more fights. As you say, he's a young man, but he's in a position now where he's going to be in big fights. I mean, we were trying to do the Dillian Whyte fight last year, but because of the moving around, sodding around with the AJ fight, that got moved, and I wish it hadn't have got moved. I wish we could have done that fight, and who knows, we may be able to do that next year. But I want to keep him busy. I want to keep Joe Joyce busy because they're all quality fighters. At the end of the day, they probably wind up fighting each other anyway.
Okay, good stuff. Now, what about 2022 as a whole? How would you assess how it's gone for you and for Queensberry?
Well, I think it's gone well. I mean, what we set out to do quite a few years ago now, was it 4 or 5 years ago when we went with BT, we set out to get Tyson back in, to become champion, to basically rule the division. We set out to ensure that we would have other heavyweights and bring them through, which we've done. So basically, we're in a really good position as far as the world heavyweight scene's concerned. I think no one's got a better situation with heavyweights than we have, that's for sure. And we've got others coming through as well. So that I'm highly delighted with. I'm delighted that, you know, that our youngsters, a couple of them, you know, didn't you know, the likes of Zach Parker had a big problem, busted his hand up. Denzel Bentley could have won that fight. He, you know, the first 4 rounds of the fight he had, first 4 rounds, I think he was a little bit too respectful towards the guy. Had he not been, he may have won that. But he showed he's up there. So they would have liked the lows. The highs, well, you know, Hamza. You look at Dennis McCann. You look at Sam Noakes. You look at Nick Ball. I mean, I can reel off and I don't want to be rude to be. I'm reel off a load of names. You know, Heaney, all those guys. We've probably got the best group of young fighters who will be contenders next year. Will be getting to a position where they're contenders than anyone. And I mean anyone. I'm not talking about the UK. I'm talking about anywhere. We have a fantastic young stable of fighters, really good quality fighters. So I'm delighted where we're at. I'm delighted with all the hard work that's been put in. That we've set ourselves up for a big year next year. I mean, some fantastic fights. Just that heavyweight division, as we mentioned earlier, there's some fantastic fights to be made there.
Now, you'd say that Queensberry have never really been away, but there's been a perception over the last few years, perhaps, particularly when Matchroom was still with Sky as their broadcast partner, that they were kind of in the ascendancy. They were putting on the big shows. They had the bigger names, Joshua being the spearhead of that. This year, at least from the outside, seems like a bit of a resurgent year for Queensberry, that you've kind of reasserted yourselves at the top. How do you see it, and do you feel that perception from outside?
Well, what I do, Dan, I just look at what we do, and what we do is build and have. And we got vision. We don't just jump from one thing to the other. We have vision, and we look at all of our fighters, and we sit down and work out where we want to take and where we want to go. I think we do the best job for bringing fighters through, bar none. Yeah, of course. I mean, listen, I got the pay-per-view going on Sky. I've got Sky going in boxing, so I know what the power of what Sky is. But now we got the power of BT and Discovery Plus. You know, we done well with what we had to do with BoxNation, which is still there. So we worked very hard, and with our endeavours and with our knowledge and our determination, we brought all our guys through. They're all doing well. They're all in a very good, very, very good positions. And you know, Sky now have got a new promoter. You know, we'll see what he does over the next year or 2 years, what they're going to do. And the others, you know, they're on. I mean, they got all I keep seeing is fighters are leaving them at the moment.
Yeah. I mean,
and that's it. And you know, and there's a reason for that. And you know, they're not getting that exposure. You know, you go on Dead Zone, you don't get seen.
Dead Zone. I mean, in that name of a Stephen King novel.
That's what I was talking about.
Yeah, of course. Me too. Yeah, I mean, for a lot of people out there, fans and media alike, we kind of like to paint it as Frank versus Eddie or Matchroom versus Queensberry. Would you say that competition is closer perhaps than it's been in the past, or is the gap widening? What's your view?
No, I see what everybody says, and you know, you hear what they say, and obviously people think, you know, it's a funny thing. You know, it's always the younger guys. I mean, listen, I've done it when I got into boxing. It's always the younger guy. Always a new young guy come on the scene. They're going to do this and do it. Do you know how many young guys have come on the scene over the years, and how many have disappeared over the years? This business is about longevity. It's about, you know, dealing with the bad times as well as the good times, because there are bad times. It's life. That's what life's like, ups and downs, and dealing with it. And we have faith in what we've got, and I feel we're in a stronger position now, because obviously we've got a better team around us than we've had at any time as far as management level is concerned. You know, with my son George, he's been a great CEO, Gareth Jones, and Andy and all the other team. I mean, we've got a very, very good team around, a good team at the top. And then and I think we've got good knowledge. I mean, I'm not a bad judge of boxers and boxing, so I'm a good job. Good matchmakers. Steve's done a great job. Francis done a great job. Francis is now on his own. He's gone out managing fighters. He's got his own business going, so he's doing well. And I'm delighted, and it just keeps evolving, and it will keep evolving. But for us, it's not about. If there's any ego in our business, the ego is probably with me, because that's sort of probably the background I come. You know, I look at my kids. There's no ego there with them. They just get on with it. Not even bother about doing interviews and so forth. So, you know, for me, it's about delivery, and I don't care what anyone says. It's about what happens in the ring, what you put in the ring that counts. And this year, we've outdone everybody in the UK. Outdone everybody, and I think it's going to be even better next year, because we've got more control of what we've got to do. You know, as I said, we've got rid of the mandatory, and we got Tyson's got his rounds under his belt, which he needed before the fight. So I'm delighted in the position we're in now, and we're moving forward. We've got signed some nice young fighters up. We signed a fighter up, which a really good heavyweight up, which I'm going to announce, which we're announcing, I think it's tomorrow or Friday, who I'm absolutely delighted with. Speaking of heavyweights as well, you know, David Adelaide's coming through. He's doing well. I mean, I can go through him. You know, Carol Ituama, he's doing brilliant. He's going to have a title fight in January on the undercard of the Berbiatib fight and Anthony Yard. So there's another big show. We've got our guy home advantage. It's not a bad way to kick off the year, the season, or we say the new year. So I'm pleased with that. We're in good shape. We're happy where we're at.
We'll talk about Beterbiev against Yard in a moment, but you said there about you've seen a lot of young guys come and go, particularly when things get tough. Does that give you a certain amount of respect for Eddie Hearn, in the sense that he's been in it a while now, and it has been up and down? It hasn't been all, you know, handed to him so far. He's now experiencing a bit of adversity, and he's still there, at least as far as we know.
Well, he's had a good run. I mean, he hit the ground running with, you know, really obviously through Matchroom and having a TV deal with Sky. I mean, I left Sky, contrary to what they, you know, what he pumps out. I left Sky 9 months to set up BoxNation before they even done a deal with him, because of the position there was with that time with Barney Francis, who was virtually killing boxing. He made a decision to 8 dates a year, and you're going to get 800 grand for the 8 dates. That was that. Who wanted to be involved in that? That was where it's at. But I think once BT come into being, they sort of had a bit of a, you know, sort of step back and reinvested in boxing, and they were in the right place at the right time, and they signed the fighter from the Olympics in the heavyweight. So you can be in the right place at the right time. We've all been in the right place sometimes at the right time. Then sometimes you're in the wrong place. But it's, you know, let's see what happens. Let's see what happens in the next year. Let's see. I mean, at the moment, they've got the zone is being funded by a man at the moment who's, I think he's blown about 6 billion in setting the business up, and it's not making money. And they announce profits. So if I was him, I'd be sitting there saying, well, I'm putting all this money in and everyone else is making profits. Why aren't I making profits? And how long is he going to continue to put money in? Who knows?
Fair enough.
But you know what? I don't care. It's irrelevant to us. We've got our home. Our home is BT. Our home is, you know, we're very pleased where we're at. And as I say, it's evolved now. It's evolved even more. I mean, I never thought Discovery Plus were going to be in boxing, but they're in there, and that's brilliant. And there's some good people there. So I think we're going to go from strength to strength next year.
On the subject of TV, it was noted recently that BoxNation is now no more, from about a week ago, I think it was.
Yeah.
Although you were no longer involved in the day-to-day running of BoxNation, you launched it. You were a pioneer in terms of streaming services in boxing. A little bit sad to see it go.
Yeah, well, it's gone under the form it's at, and we're looking at what we're going to do next year with it. But yeah, at that form it is. You're absolutely right. Yeah, I'm sad. I mean, we bloody done some good stuff on there. There was some good fights. I mean, I think our first big fight was Bellew and Cleverly. You know, I mean, they were, you know, decent shows. I mean, in Liverpool Stadium. I mean, there were some great fights there. Tyson fought on there. You know, so did, I mean, we were home for a long time of what's his name? Lomachenko's fights we had on. We had Golovkin's. We had all those guys on there. I mean, and regularly. So, you know, it was good. It was good. It was good, and it was a big learning curve. And, you know, that's why we know how difficult it is, and what you know, how it is to keep a channel going like that. Same as what they're doing with the Zone at the moment. That's the bottom line. And I mean, they haven't made any profit. They made huge losses, and we invested as a family a lot of money in the business, a lot of money, but we turned it around.
Now, just before I let you go, just give us a few ideas of what the big hopes or ambitions, objectives are for 2023.
To get some of these big heavyweight fights on stadiums in the UK, to get a lot of our younger guys now, get them in a position where they're going to be up or about challenging for world titles by the end of the year. Try and hopefully we put it all together now. Hopefully that our man Anthony Yard comes through. So we want him to, you know, hopefully he's come in, and he's got a good chance of doing that. He's a better fighter than people give him credit for. He can box a bit, and he can whack. And we've seen what Callum Johnson caught Burby 70. He had him over, and I think that, all due respect to Callum, who, you know, obviously was with us, I think Anthony's a bigger puncher than him.
How would you compare your motivation levels, your passion levels now compared to, say, 5 years ago or 10 years ago when you launched BoxNation, or 11 years ago?
11 years ago, that was. You know, where's the time gone? I'm still in it. You know, I love it. You know, I love it, Dan. I mean, I really do enjoy the cut and thrust of it, but I enjoy most of all the fights and going to the fights and seeing the fights. I enjoy making it. I love getting involved with young fighters and bringing them through. We got some, you know, when I look at, you know, a couple of those youngsters there, like young Royston, you know, things like that. I love that. I love that from day one, you know, sort of helping and help to guide them and achieve their dreams and being part of, you know, being part of their dream. You know, it's never going to go away from me. It is what it is. I mean, I love boxing. I mean, you know, football and boxing. That's me. I love all sport, but I mean, they're the two sports I sort of love the most. I'm always watching them, or well, I haven't got there lately because I had a few problems, as you well know, moving back and that. But I get to football matches and I'll get to as many fights as I can, and I will still do that next year. And I've got the bit between my teeth with a couple of these youngsters we've got, and with some of them, you know, we've had, you know, like some of these guys have had 10 fights, 11 fights. They're on the cuffs now of getting them into really good positions. And I think a few of them have the ability to become world champions. So, you know, I'm excited about that.
Any New Year's resolutions? Do you go in for that?
Yeah, I normally, but you know, it's the same one every year. Within like a day or two, it always goes by the wayside because I like wine too much.
All right, fair enough. Well, yeah, you're allowed at least one vice. That's what I've always been told. So, Frank, yeah, really appreciate it. Not just today, but throughout 2022, you've been really accessible, always appreciated. And yeah, look forward to more of the same in 2023.
Lovely. Appreciate it, Dan. Wishing you, your family, and wishing your viewers a happy, healthy, and successful and peaceful New Year.
I'm sure they all wish the same for you. Cheers, Lovely. Frank. Take care.
Cheers, Nelson. Thanks, Dan. Cheers, mate.